Hola, ¿cómo están? Bueno, pues tenemos aquí ya ese nuevo Weekend Inspiration. El día de hoy o para este fin de semana tenemos un tema muy interesante, nos gusta mucho porque justamente tenemos una temporada bastante extraordinaria en la vida de todos, ya lo sabemos, es la parte de pues de los virus y quedarnos en casa y bueno, pues todo esto. Entonces pensamos que tal vez era un buen tema hablar sobre los vampiros. De alguna manera, pues también ya lo vamos a estar hablando más adelante, pero toda la idea o la historia que empieza de los vampiros y todo esto, pues va evolucionando después a la parte de los zombies. Entonces, pues tenemos ahora una invitada, Gabrielle. Ella está en Ciudad de México y pues más que invitada es nuestra colega, nuestra amiga. Entonces, pues queríamos también compartir con ella algunas ideas, que ella también nos platicara sobre la forma en la que ella ve estas películas, estos diseños, estos maquillajes. Pues bueno, nos gusta mucho también cómo es que ella ve este tipo de personajes. Entonces, bueno, vamos a probar. Es la primera vez que tenemos una invitada y pues
Y estoy muy honrada de ser tu invitada. Muchas gracias, chicos, por tenerme aquí. Va a estar divertido, nos vamos a divertir mucho y pues sí, momento pandemia, así que va a estar.
Sí, y pues bueno, tenemos a Kevin. Kevin, thank you so much as always.
And well, thank you, and thank you, Gabrielle.
Thank you
for joining us.
Yes, so let's start. Kevin, you were saying that we should start talking about with Dracula.
Well, I mean that's pretty much for us where the vampires started. In 1897, Bram Stoker wrote the novel Dracula.
Okay.
And that kind of became the guide for vampires for many years. Mm-hmm. In 1931, Universal Studios made the movie Dracula with Bela Lugosi, and he became kind of what people thought of as the vampire for many years. Whenever, especially with the Universal horror movies, you had Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, the Mummy, and they all looked a specific way, and that's just like what a vampire was.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
Because, okay, it's Dracula, but we also have some other images or some other characters that come from, I think, Dracula, which, for example, Nosferatu.
Nosferatu came before. That was 1922, and it was kind of a rip-off of the novel. It was a silent film.
Okay.
That didn't acknowledge the book at all, but it was kind of stolen from it. But it had its own cool feeling to it, and the makeup was very distinctive and iconic. And, with the creepy, pointy face and the two little teeth.
And they are mostly like two sides of the same thing, like the pretty guy.
Right.
The text figure of the vampire.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Because what you are saying, Gabriel, is like I never read anything about Nosferatu. I just read the book of Dracula, and it's like this erotic kind of, I don't know, it's like, no, like you said, like beautiful kind of guy, and he's like trying to hook with that girl, just to say it that way, no?
Romantic, sexy, powerful, and this other guy that is just horrible, pointed ears. It's like a creature of the night, which is basically Dracula, but the more sophisticated one,
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so.
Well, that's the thing with vampires is they're lucky because they get to be sexy. Werewolves aren't sexy, and mummies aren't sexy, and zombies aren't sexy, but vampires.
It
depends, but it's like classically there was like an element of seduction with the vampire and his victim, and it seemed for some reason to be pleasurable when she was bitten by the vampire, which which I never understood because I used to have a girlfriend that liked to bite, and I wasn't crazy about it.
Well, I really like to bite, so what can I say?
I don't know what to say, guys, because I don't know if I like the bites or not.
We're off track here. But, yeah, I mean, it was, like we were talking about for a long time, the concept of the vampire was Dracula. And it was an isolated evil, and it was like very gothic and old-fashioned in old Europe and Transylvania and
romantic.
And romantic. And if you traveled to a specific place, the people would tell you don't go in that castle because Dracula's inside. So, you don't want to go in there. And then do you want to jump ahead to
yes.
I Am Legend? Yeah,
well,
in 1950.
Yes, go ahead.
So for many years, it was Dracula or variations of Dracula, with rare exceptions of like Nosferatu is like a scary one instead of a glamorous one. But in 1954, Richard Matheson writes a novel called I Am Legend, and it opens with the world has been wiped out except for one guy, and he's barricaded in his house, and every night the few people that survived this plague, this virus, have become vampires, and they attack his house. And so he has to close himself in and hide from them all night long. It's become a worldwide, like a virus infection, like nowadays.
Which if you see it that way, now that first we were talking about this one guy in a castle or a building, wherever he was inside, and like everyone outside was saying like don't go there. And then suddenly with Mason, it's like the other way around. It's just one guy that it's a normal human. And then
a world of vampires. Right. And so it was cool that it was like, you don't have to go to this one place,
the place comes to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's everywhere now, And it had a lot of impact on pop culture to the point where like zombies as we know today wouldn't exist, because in 1968 George Romero directed Night of the Living Dead, and he says it's because of I Am Legend he wanted to do his version of that. So it's people trapped in a house, but instead of vampires they're zombies outside. So because of I Am Legend there's Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead and The Walking Dead, and just the concept of zombies is all because of that novel about vampires. And then after that, everyone was free to do their own interpretation of vampires. It didn't have to be Dracula anymore. It could be like any version of it.
Yeah.
They just...
And then some, like if also the other way to see it, I think it's because in some other stories, like vampires are dead.
Right.
And zombies are dead.
Right.
So it's like two different characters, zombies and vampires, both are dead, but they can be at the same time zombies, vampires. I don't know, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like the again, like I Am Legend or The Strain, or no?
Like the two concepts just merge into one.
The only thing or the only difference maybe is that one likes to bite and get blood, and the other one is just like going for the brains.
Yeah, they'll just eat you. And that was the first time zombies were portrayed that way in Night of the Living Dead, as that they'll eat you, and there are dead people that have come back to life, and if they bite you, you'll turn into a zombie. Before that, zombies were like... Well, like in Haiti, they were just like almost like hypnotized slaves. Yeah. They had no mind of their own, and they would go out and do the hard work. And they would, there was just a zombie, somebody who didn't think. But Romero, because of I Am Legend, turned them into actual like monsters. supernatural. They're dead people that have come back to life.
Okay.
Like a vampire, living dead.
And then we have, from this Maidson story, we also have the movie of Omega Man.
Yeah. After I Am Legend, there was a movie with Vincent Price called The Last Man on Earth.
Yeah.
In 50, I forget where. In the 50s, with Vincent Price.
I'm so bad with the dates, so I'm gonna leave that to you too.
that was.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I wrote it down somewhere, and I have so many notes I can't find it in my notes. That was a lot like the novel, and Vincent Price is in his house, and it's all boarded up and beat up, and every night these guys come and they're banging outside. In 71, I guess, was the Omega Man.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a plague. There was like a germ warfare between Russia and China, and the germs got spread all around the world again, as germs do.
As viruses do.
Because it feels so actual, because it's China against Russia. I mean, it's...
What? Were they describing the future or something?
I think so. I actually think that they were describing this point on time.
Well, as kind of funny and cliched as the Omega Man is, and I love it. I loved it as a kid. I still do. Good science fiction kind of looks into the future, and can kind of see. And so it's like, it's over China and Russia are fighting. It's like, who cares? I mean, it's not going to affect us. And of course, those things do.
Welcome to the 2020.
Yeah, exactly. And Omega Man, they weren't vampires. Everyone dies except for a group of people that have been mutated into these like albino religious fanatics who hate anything from the past because technology has destroyed the world. They become Luddites. They hate any kind of machinery, things like that. And Charlton Heston plays Robert Neville. He's the one, he's the one human left, and he's hiding in his building every night, and they come and they try to attack him and get him out. And during the day, like in I Am Legend, he travels around Los Angeles trying to find them so he can wipe them out because they're all like psychotic.
Yeah, and with very bad makeup.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. What is
with the contact lenses? I mean, yeah.
And I don't know, the contact lenses and the thing that they are with the glasses, with the shades. It's like, they look like so bad people, and they just like take out the glasses, and it's like, what?
And the black tunics.
Right. They were supposed to be like so light sensitive. They have to wear sunglasses. But then their contacts were like white contacts with little a little pinhole of black. I mean, it should have been the other way around, but with big open pupils that like too much light comes in. But even Charlton Heston said, as much as he enjoyed the Omega Man, he said the makeup was like the weakest part of the movie.
Yeah,
it just wasn't that good.
And he was right.
He was right. But I still love the movie. And then there was the Will Smith version of I Am Legend.
Where we don't have any like makeup. It's all digital, basically, no?
Yeah, they started with makeup and then they stopped.
Why did they do that?
I don't know. I think it might be just production now is more geared to filming and adding things digitally later. It's maybe more cost effective. I don't know what the makeups looked like, if they were good or not. I mean, the digital stuff I didn't care for at all, and it has that too lightweight feeling to it. Like when there's no weight to the creatures; they could just jump all over the place.
With the passing of time, I mean, I saw the Omega Man. To remember all the story and the bad makeup, actually, I love it. I enjoy it. Also, the finale, I mean, the final of the movie, I think, is very powerful because he's almost in a Christ position.
Yeah, he's in
which
it.
is like the savior of all mankind, which I love. Actually, I just love that.
Yeah,
And
with his blood.
And then you see I Am Legend, and even though it's no makeup, I mean, those are the things I think both of the movies have like crappy. The makeup in one and the special effects in the other one. Because you don't believe it, and even with the passing of time, it's more obvious now that they are not there, and they don't have weight, and the lights are not hitting them. You know, they are not integrated in the background. I don't know.
To me, there was more menace with the guys in the bad makeup and the white afros in Omega Man than there was in I Am Legend because
they are religious.
And
that's actually creepy.
Yeah, it's scary when someone's that much of a fanatic about something. But it's like to me, looking at the Will Smith version with the digital effects, there's no tension to me that it's like, oh, he's going to get it. Because I know they're not there. It doesn't. It sort of doesn't matter.
That's true. And then that makes me think. I maybe I'm gonna jump a lot from one thing to another. I'm sorry, but like because now that we are talking about these different kind of looks of the characters of the zombies or the different kind of vampires, zombies. Vampires. I think the only, like, going back to the beginning, I think the only one that I feel that it's really a vampire, it's maybe Dracula or Nosferatu in the movies, no? Because then when we go to another movie, which we were talking about, or we were going to talk about this in the future, but Lost Boys. We see the Lost Boys, and then it's like you said, Gabriel, they are like so beautiful, handsome, and I don't think the idea it's like going further, it's just like let's just make them like these cute guys that no, and then like Omega Man, it's not really good makeup. Then I Am Legend again, no, it's just like digital. And then we go with Lost Boys. It's good appliance, good makeup, good idea, but it's just that. No?
I mean, the makeup in Lost Boys looks good. It's good, but it's just like that. That's it. I mean, just like these huge brows. The teeth, I love the teeth. They are actually good-looking teeth. But the rest of it is just like, okay, you are just teenager with teeth and big brows.
Exactly.
And you're cute because Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, so tell us about that a little bit, Kevin, of the designs that you did and the idea you had of these vampires in particular.
Right, I didn't work on the final version of the makeups for the movie. Greg Canham and his crew did those, and they are really cool. And this was a progression from like that when you are a vampire, when you're going to attack, at first you could look like a human, but then you would change, almost like a werewolf transformation, but you would vampire transform. And so they had the brows and the big fangs. The director and the production company either came to us first or went to a couple of different places, but I had a company called Boss, where we did Ghostbusters and Poltergeist 2, and we started on Predator, and they also did a lot of miniature effects for Blade Runner and 2012. Was that the name of that one? The sequel to 2001? It was a special effects company that did miniatures and optical effects and makeup effects. And so the people running it said, okay, we want these vampires to be like these twisted, disgusting looking things. They're going to transform and almost like faces blurred, blended together, or just misshapen. And it's like, wow, cool, okay. And so I did a bunch of drawings, and I think there was a couple of other artists there too doing different designs. Oh, thanks.
They are just amazing. I don't know why they didn't choose them.
I tried to keep them really sketchy and loose, almost like there was movement, because that was kind of what was given to us. Like, these things will be seen like very fast and violent. And I was proud of them. And the director came in, Joel Schumacher, and he directed a couple of the Batman movies and various things. And he hated them. They were not what he wanted at all. Joel, I don't know where they got the idea to do the designs that way, because I never spoke to anybody except the people in Boss. So I don't know where they thought that this was going to be a good idea. That all these designs, and we even did a test makeup on Kiefer Sutherland came in, and it's like this ugly it's an ugly vampire. And he hated all of it. Joel is very flamboyant, I'll say. And so they ended up being pretty boys with, mullet haircuts and very, very 80s looking.
Yeah, very 80s, exactly.
But very pretty and not, the ugly ones that we were coming up with. So that was a little disappointing. So they just said goodbye, and they went to Greg.
How much is that the looks you didn't stay in the movie because of they were ugly, or because the actors didn't want to lose their pretty face along the movie, Because there's this war against, I need my face to be in like 90% of the movie, How much is that also involved?
Well, not on that one, because it was just the director was like, these guys don't get it. It's not what I'm looking for. It's like, and he knew Greg, and it's like, I'm just going to go to Greg and have him do it. And Greg did a great job. But we've gone through things like that before, where an actor, if their face is covered up, they get very, very paranoid, and it's like, people won't know it's me, and they can't appreciate. Somebody like Eddie Murphy is great, because Rick would put the makeups on him for Coming to America, and he played like 4 or 5 different people, and or Nutty Professor, that he's covered up, and he had fun with it, and it was just a cool thing for him to do. It wasn't a problem. But a lot of actors are very insecure that they'll get lost in the makeup, and they won't see my face, they won't know it's me.
But
see, that's the thing. And even we did American Werewolf in London. There's the 2 guys are hitchhiking around England, and they get attacked by a werewolf, and one guy gets killed, and the other one doesn't. And so through the movie, the one that's killed comes back like a little bit more destroyed, until at the very end, he's a puppet, because he's like almost a skeleton at that point. And that actor, Griffin Dunn, was not very, very happy with that he's being replaced by a puppet for the final sequence. But it was just like, there's no other way to do it. Rick Baker had to explain to him that it's like, you're a skeleton. It's like, you can't, you can't play a skeleton, and they can't add anything to your face to make you look like you're less. You're just going to get bigger. But I remember, Griffin wasn't happy about that. So it happens a lot.
Oh, okay.
It's a long answer to your short question.
No, but it's cool.
I love long answers, actually.
That's what we are looking for here.
Long answers, yeah.
Okay. So so Lost Boys, you did those designs, which we're gonna show during the video.
Okay. And
yep.
And around that time, at Boss Films too, we did a movie called Fright Night. Fright Night was about a vampire that moves in next door to this teenage kid, I guess. And the kid like starts getting suspicious, of like the weird things that are going on, and finally it becomes apparent that this guy is a vampire. And that was at Boss Film, and Steve Johnson did the makeup on Chris Sarandon, and we did. There's like a kid that turns into a wolf. Evil Ed. Was that his name? Evil Ed. He's the one, the picture I sent you with the really big fangs, and he has like a cross burnt into his forehead. Looks like an X almost. And then also there's a guy named Billy that was the vampire's assistant. And at the end, he disintegrates and he melts all to pieces. And that's the behind the scenes picture I sent. You have it? Okay. And you see me, I'm like way off in the corner. And what we had was an articulated dummy, basically, with a gelatin skin over it and hair punched into it and painted. And then big heaters, they would blow super hot air onto it and melt the gelatin down. And then they would film it, like they would under crank it so that when the film played back, it would happen faster. So like what was used in Raiders of the Lost Ark at the end when those guys melted is similar to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we had to do it twice because the first time we did it, it caught fire. Like it was so, and everyone is like crowded underneath his puppet, and his hair just catches fire, and it's like everything starts to burn, and like people are crawling over each other trying to get out of the way. So, anyways, it's an adventure sometimes.
Please tell me you had something near to shut the fire.
Yeah, the people came running over with fire extinguishers. But,
okay.
Yeah. But that, again, was, when he, Chris Sarandon turns into the attack mode, he changes and his hands change, he turns into a monster, basically.
Okay.
And that influenced things like even Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where the vampires, when they attack, they transform. Yeah. Which were really good makeups. I mean, it was amazing that they could turn those out every single week on that show. Although the vampires did look a lot like Lost Boys vampires. But
they are like they are a copy of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's not inspiration. I mean, that's just a legit copy.
Yeah. I like Buffy. I like the show, but they did look pretty much exactly like the Lost Boys.
You got me there, guys. I never saw Buffy.
Oh, it's a funny show.
No, never.
but yeah, they make.
It's the same, but in the 90s.
Okay. Yeah. I sometimes heard about it, but you know what? My mom was always like, "No, don't see those. You're gonna have nightmares." And then when I was an old girl, when I was older, I never got interested in it. So, but keep going. I want to learn from you too.
No, I like Buffy. I was working on a TV commercial once, and the director, we were going back and forth on the designs of this. He was like a big singing French fry that I had to build and make an animatronic head for it. And he says, "Okay, I'm going to go home and think about this, and then I'm going to call you tonight. We could go over the design." I said, "Okay, but you can't call me between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And he goes, "Why not?" And I said, "'Cause I'm going to be watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer." And he's like,
"Don't they start?"
And he goes, "Are you serious?" Like he was angry, and it's like, "Yeah, I want to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Then you can call me at 9 o'clock." I liked it. They had cute girls and monsters. And I liked it.
Kevin.
Especially cute girls.
Yeah. But then there's all kinds of.
I don't resist that guy. It's cute and all, but no, it's not my type of guy.
Like we said before, if we are talking about vampires, there's gonna be cute girls because the vampires are always going to be like trying to hook up with those pretty girls.
Correct.
Obviously.
Yes.
You're going to see a horrible girl being sucked by a vampire?
No.
And Hollywood, it's beautiful. Come on.
No, the vampire says, let the zombies have her.
See, exactly. The vampire is like, "Oh, that's ugly." Okay.
So there's been different TV series. Buffy was a popular one. Yeah. Different TV series over the years with vampires in it. But But there's been movie franchises like Underworld. I worked on one of them. I don't know which one, but there's been like 4 of those or 5 of those.
Yeah, I think it's
Something
4.
like that. Four of them. I don't remember which one I worked on.
I just
It was
saw
like
2. I just saw
You
2
know-
of them.
Oh, okay. Blade had 3 movies, something like that. Twilight, with the teenage vampires and love. Well, I'm just
Because we have to
franchises.
mention them, even if we don't like them. And I was gonna mention
can
Interview
spread
with the
that
Vampire.
Interview with the Vampire. Yeah, another one.
That's
which
that's another one that the guys are very cute, and it's
But
not
they don't shine.
exactly they don't shine.
They are sexy. I mean, even Anne Rice just depicted them like they are painted by Botticelli. I mean, they are that beautiful. I can cope with beautiful, but I can't cope with shining vampires. No,
I've al-
with huge huskies, werewolves. I can't. Sorry.
Well, it's more like a fairy tale that wanted to put vampires and werewolf in the story. So, well, that's what I think. I never read the books, but when I saw the movies, because I was like, okay, I'm curious about it. Then I saw it and it was like, it's a fairy tale.
Mm.
It's like a
I've always
fairy
seen-
tale.
Teenager movie.
Yeah.
I've only seen clips of the movie, but it seemed like it was made for like 8-year-old girls, who would think that was very tragic and romantic. But Interview with the Vampire had some interesting concepts, even like with Kirsten Dunst, the little girl,
Yeah.
who's now, when she gets angry, that it's like, I'm forever going to be a little girl. Like, why did you do this to me? It's like, yeah, that's true. You would just like freeze in time. You would never age. It's like, I'm never going to grow up,
Is one of the it's not like very common to depict eternity that way, because actually it's pretty hard. I mean, you are going to be the little lovely doll for the rest of the eternity. I mean,
Right.
That concept is just horrifying.
There's a vampire movie called Near Dark, and they're a group of vampires who just roam like out west here in the States in a van. They're like nomads almost, and so that they don't get caught, they just keep moving. And it's really bloody, and it's a cool movie. I haven't seen it for a long time, but I remember it being cool. But one of them, who was like one of the oldest, I think this is how it goes, he's one of the oldest, is like a 12-year-old boy, and he hates it, and and he talks about it, I'm trapped in this body, and I'm 100 years old, I'm an old man, but because somebody says to him, that you're 12 years old, and he says, yeah, but I've been 12 for a long time.
Wow.
So it's got some cool ideas in it, and it's cool when people toy around with those ideas and has moved on from, just another Dracula movie, again and again, like through the 40s, that it's like, you could toy around with those concepts.
Exactly, because for example, we have this concept that you get the bite, and then you are a vampire, and then you get to be beautiful or whatever you are in that moment forever, no?
Right.
But then we have some other stories about vampires where they start like becoming apart, no? Like the nose are like began to fail, or pieces of the flesh, no? And they start changing into vampires, ugly vampires. So it's
Like
two different
the strain.
types, no? Exactly, like the strain.
Right.
Or well, not Blade, no, but the only thing in Blade is like they open, no? They anatomically change.
Right. they don't just get like a frowny face or some fangs. They become.
They get like the full anatomy change.
That's all Del Toro's idea. That it's like, what if it like, why would it just be that little look? Let's do something really cool that is like this complete physical. You're almost remade into a whole new type of animal if that happens to you, you know. And with the jaws that could open up and clamp on people, or in the strain with the whole mechanism of the tongue sucker thing that comes out and drinks the blood. And it's like a completely different change, and then you just become that. It's like you don't go back to normal and then change when you're angry. You know, you're just that giant leech person, you know, from now on.
Exactly. And then we have those, for example, get to be vampires because of a virus. We have now a virus in the world, and it, like you said before, Kevin, this is the most boring pandemic ever.
I know.
It is. Actually, it is. I'm with him.
It is.
It's boring.
There's no vampires to shoot at. There's no zombies to shoot at. And there's no adventure. You just have to sit in your house. You know?
Drinking. And you can't drink anymore.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more like the Omega Man. He had just to sit down there and wait.
I know. Well, because we talked about Omega Man and I Am Legend, I always have a prop behind me, and I couldn't think of anything this week with vampires, so I just said that. Just in case that it turns into zombies or Omega Man, I'm ready.
I have my bat, actually.
I don't have anything. I will be the first one dying.
Game on you.
Game over, guys.
You know, speaking of Del Toro, another kind of a vampire movie was Cronos.
Ah, sí, claro.
In a weird sort of way, I guess.
Yes.
It's kind of a vampire movie.
It is a vampire movie because he gets to change also the body and to feel like the need of the blood because of these insects. No, Del Toro has this love for insects, so there's this mechanism that bites him, which is like the same thing, like vampires bite, and this insect bites him, and then he starts becoming a vampire. So it's a really, I love this idea of this insect biting the guy and then turning, and it's just crazy. And I always wanted to say that I love the makeups. It's like the first big experiment of Del Toro doing makeup in a professional way. Sometimes you see the scenes and you can see it when you already do makeup and you see some of the scenes. It's like, I can see the foam or I can see some details, no? But it's something very nice because he just goes for it. It's the first movie. It's his opera prima, no? And it's like, I love it. I don't know what you think.
Well, it's lovely. It's completely lovely. And the thing is that when you do something that is already there, not only the actors respond to it, it's very organic. I mean, it's there. You can feel it. You can almost sense them licking you. But if they are not there, and if they are only VFX, you lose that charm. And that's the main point in the movies. If you can see the visual effects, then they don't grow old good. You still see that there's poor effects.
Yes.
But instead, with all the foam and with all the puppets even, you feel it there, and you feel it actually, because it's happening. And that's the marvelous thing about movie making and all school effects, you know.
I always thought it was kind of sad that people who did matte paintings, like that, you know, were so beautiful, so many of them. And matte painting is like if you could shoot like just build part of a set and then you would do a painting. just to expand it, to make it a bigger building or a bigger room, or to put a ceiling on it, or to put mountains behind it, things like that. I always thought it was a little bit sad that the best ones people never noticed because they were so good that people just thought it was part of the shop and didn't know that so much work went into it.
Yeah.
You know. But talking about makeup in vampire movies, there was a movie in '83 called The Hunger with David Bowie in it.
Mm-hmm.
And Dick Smith did the makeups on that. And a lot of it has to do with when the vampires are, I forget what happens to Bowie in the movie, but he starts to deteriorate. And in that way, basically, he just ages very rapidly. And Dick did a series of aging makeups on him until he has kind of similar to the Little Big Man makeup. So it looks like he's 120 years old, but really, really beautiful. There's one of the stages where he's, I don't know what age he's supposed to be, but he is aged a little bit. It's very clean, and it has like beard stubble on it and just like a little bit of like a heavier jowl. And again, Dick just being super clean, just so nice. And then there were dummies at the end where the vampires are like crumbling apart. Just really nicely done. Of course.
Hunger.
Yeah.
Nice.
And he also did. There was a TV series in the '60s called Dark Shadows. And it had the main character was Barnabas Collins, the vampire. Tim Burton did a movie a couple years ago with Johnny Depp as Barnabas. But they made a movie in I think it was 1970. It was House of Dark Shadows, and Dick did an age makeup on him that was really good. He actually used the Little Big Man mold to cast up the foam head and the eyelids.
He did the makeup on who?
For Barnabas Collins in the Dark Shadows. Yeah. He did one for the TV series, and then he did a more extreme one for the movie.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, Dick started in TV, doing live TV shows. So.
I did know, but I didn't know he did the Barnabas.
I think I sent you a black and white shot of that.
I don't remember. I saw the other ones, but I'm gonna put them in the video anyways.
Okay.
Please do so. So they can know what we are talking about.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
They don't even know what we're talking about right now.
Okay, guys. So you want to talk about something else? It's now or never.
There was a Swedish movie called Let the Right One In.
Ooh,
with the little girl.
Yeah.
And again, it's a little girl who's been turned into a vampire, and she's nice, but she can't help it killing people because she's a vampire. That was an interesting movie. Just trying to think of like vampire movies. The last vampire movie I saw that I really loved was What We Do in the Shadows. It's a movie from New Zealand about these 4 vampires that share an apartment. It's a comedy, and a documentary crew comes in to document their lives and what they do, and I just found that really funny.
I want to watch it, but I can't find it.
Yeah, I know. I sent you that clip, but
it's difficult to find it.
If it's a regional thing or something. Yeah, it's really good. I don't know if you could get it through Amazon.
I will try it. Even like The Strain, I wanted to watch again the episodes, and I can't see it. And I watch it there with you and everything, but then here. No.
The only from that I could watch it was because I have it. Otherwise, you can't find it easily, or you just need to pay.
Yeah. It happens.
Yeah. But yeah, I would highly recommend that. What We Do in the Shadows. It's pretty funny.
Okay, so I would like to make some resume of what we talked about, because I really like this topic. It's like we have the main character, then Dracula.
Hmm.
Uh, this is the first character in the story, in the history of humankind, that sucks blood.
I don't know. Uh, Gabrielle, I don't know. Is there a more ancient? It kind of defined it for the late 19th and into the 20th century, like what the concept of the vampire was, for a long time. But
Well, there's always like the superstitions and all the I don't know if any culture has like these. They have sacrifices. They also have drinking blood, but like the first character to actually suck blood, I think he's actually the first, because for the zombies, the first zombie, if you are like very picky about it, it will be Lazarus, because he was it was not reborn. He actually came to life, but they never said in the Bible if he's actually living or if he's dead. But he came to life. So for me, it will be the first zombie, but the first vampire,
Well, maybe it's the first character in movies.
I think so.
Well,
Okay.
Lon Chaney played a vampire type character in a movie called London After Midnight, and that was before Dracula. But it's a lost movie. Only some pictures remain. You can't see the film.
How can that happen?
They weren't super careful with keeping things back then, and everything was on like that nitrate film that would just like burn up or crumble apart. And also, like after a few years, it's like we got all these movies, we don't care, but we're not going to re-release it. It's the same reason why they used to just all the molds, from like Universal Studios to make Creature from the Black Lagoon and all that cool stuff. They just smashed them up and threw them in the dumpster, and all the props they would just bulldoze and throw everything away because it served its purpose, and there's no room to keep it.
Yeah, they weren't very careful about that, and remember that it was on film, so the film tends to
burn.
Well, not only burn, but also disintegrate.
Right.
And they can also start falling apart if you don't take care of it. So a lot of movies, you can't find them because of that.
Yeah, there was no real
culture to take care of things.
There was no real thought of archiving the stuff. It's like it served its purpose. It's done. That's it. That's why a lot of times you look at an old TV shows, or even like from the the 1960s, where there's obvious glaring mistakes that happen that are left in the show because they just figured it's going to play this once and then we'll repeat it once and then no one will ever see it again, not knowing that 30, 40 years later you could get everything on Blu-ray, and go through it, and it's like, wow, look at whatever mistakes they made, would be picked apart by fans in the future. There was just no thought. So back in the 20s and the 30s, there was no thought of saving anything.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a guy named Greg Jean who used to make miniatures for movies, spaceships and airplanes and jets and all kinds of things. And he used to go into the studios, and it's like, okay, they would hire him to, like, he did a lot of work, I think, on Blade Runner and movies like that. He would cut them a deal. It's like, I'll make the miniatures for your movie, but let me go through your warehouse, your archives, and see what you have. And if I want something, I'll give you like a lesser price, but I'll take this junk off your hands. I'll help clear out your warehouse. And so he ended up with all kinds of really cool things, like the guns from the original Star Trek, and spaceships from different TV shows and movies, and, that would have just been destroyed by the studio. So he kind of took those and he archived that stuff. So I always thought that was cool.
Okay, nice to know. Nothing to
do with vampires.
B.
B.A.B. I don't know. I think those are all my notes. Oh, what we should talk about just real quick is that Dracula, and we talked about Bela Lugosi. In 1958, Hammer Studios in England started. They were making horror movies over there, and they did Horror of Dracula with Christopher Lee, and he became the new Dracula for several movies, 3 or 4 Dracula movies that they did with Peter Cushing as Dr. Van Helsing, and he was like a more athletic, he would jump over tables at people. He was more aggressive than Bela Lugosi was, and it was sort of the beginning of when a vampire is going to attack you, he starts to change, and what they would do is give him scleral contact lenses. And and fangs, and that would signify that it was a change. There were no prosthetics, but it was sometimes there were bloodshot, sometimes they were really red.
Okay.
But also Christopher Lee's performance give you that sensation of this terrifying monster.
Yeah, I mean, he looked like he could kick your ass. He just seemed
he really does.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a band metal, he played metal. He was a badass.
I sent you a picture of him too, so.
Yes, I will put everything in the video. Okay. Well, thank you guys. I send you a big hug.
Thank you.
Yay. And
we'll see you next time.
Stay safe from the vampire zombies that we don't have.
That sucks.